Okay, so today, you go ahead and get my scripture out the way. Hello, everybody. I pray that everybody's having a blessed day. And for those that are intensely trying to really find out the truth in regards to what happened, I really do appreciate you guys taking an interest, and knowing what's going on in the community and the lives of other family members in the community, and probably some of your own if you've actually had to deal with the legal system there and your loved one was sharing with you that this is happening, this is not the truth, this is not what took place, and you're feeling like, you didn't know whether or not to, believe your loved one, or you didn't know whether or not to support them. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to find out what is really, really going on in the community. And if you have to step back and go back to your loved one and say, I'm sorry, I didn't believe you. This is ridiculous. I had no idea. Then do that, because life has its own toll on us. And we do as people, because we're not perfect. We make our own mistakes in life. But it's a difference when we make our mistakes and someone puts something on us that doesn't supposed to be there. So if you have had a family member and you wanted so much to stand behind them, you wanted so much to believe in them, to support them, but everything just kept coming back to be the opposite of what they said, and you're realizing that now there could have been some truth to what they were saying all along. Go back. It's not too late. Again, I remind you, every day gives us the opportunity to correct a wrong, gives us the opportunity to try anew. So if you have family members and loved ones that are incarcerated, family members and loved ones that may have been released and they're back at home with you, then do what you can do to smooth over those rough places and to make right whatever that needs to be made right in your relationships with your family members and your loved ones. Because although we are people of imperfection, we still deserve to be loved. So moving on, my scripture today, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And the reason I made this my scripture today, because in this recording that you're going to listen to, and our word for today is culpability. Culpability. Because I was crossed in trying to understand culpability. And for those of you who don't know, culpability is responsibility for a fault or wrong, blame. In the recording, you're going to hear Officer Sanders share with me that he was looking for Ashley Woosley Wanning's culpability, her culpability, meaning whether or not she felt like she had did wrong or felt like she was at fault for her actions. And so we're going to hear that. And then also, I remind you, September 14th, in the audios that we listened to there, you heard Sheriff Roberts with his wonderful self claim that Ashley Woosley Winings went back to the car to turn herself in. And at this point, especially with the lapse in which we've been dealing with, when I took a break just this past time, I know there has to be a question of whether or not, well, is that really what, she said? Or, did Christy, my name, did she lie? Did Christy lie in regards to saying that, Officer Sanders told her something differently? So we get to hear that today too. So we actually get to hear Officer Sanders say that she did not go to, he's not going to say she didn't come to turn herself in. What he's going to say is that she actually went back to get something out of the car. Okay, and there's a big difference in actually going to get something out of the car versus actually coming and saying, hey, I did it, which is what wonderful Chef Roberts said. She said, I did it, and I'm here. That's not what happened. So we're going to actually listen to that today. And then we're going to move on into talking a little bit about culpability. Another thing I want to put on your hearts is that we are still praying for Miss Megan Hall, our Facebook mom. I do know that she goes to court on Wednesday. So we are really, really praying for her. And I also want to talk about real quick here before we listen to the audio is culpability in regards to Mrs. Hall, because I kind of wonder if culpability was extended to Mrs. Hall in regards to, you know, her, her criminal intent, because that's what culpability, the intent of the mind. So, and you were waiting, at one point in our situation, we were waiting, or with the death of my brother, we were waiting to hear Miss Ashley Woosley's culpability. So I'm just wondering if anyone thought and considered Ms. Megan Hall's culpability of her intent. Like, did they even check to find out, what her intent was? I mean, I read in one of the articles that she had actually heard it from someone else. And so she was actually out of, concern, sharing it with the rest of the community. I don't feel like there's a criminal intent behind that. I don't feel like there was a responsible culpability in play there where there was intentional fault, intentional wrong. So we want to continue to pray for Miss Megan Hall and her family and what they're going through with this situation. And you noticed in a lot of my audios, I wanted to mention this as well. You hear me talk about or hear me use the word situation, even with the death of my brother. I keep calling it a situation, because I still have not found the words to properly describe that to where when I hear it, it doesn't rip me apart. And so saying situation, it just helps me to communicate about it, I guess, better than what it actually was. So, okay. Why don't we go ahead and let's listen to the audio. Okay, and then just another concern that I have is that my brother has shared with me that when he was down at the crime scene, that he still noticed there were pieces of articles still laying around. And my concern with that is that if we're doing a thorough investigation, that my belief is all of the articles and things should be with whatever you guys are examining or whatever's been examined for this situation versus still out there, laying on the street. And so I am concerned about that.
All right, I'll personally go out there today and see what else that may be connected to this incident.
Okay. I don't believe there's anything else that I have to share with you at this time. Can you share with me what process or what, or did I do what I needed to do as far as making the necessary steps to have the young lady arrested, or educate me on what would be the proper steps to do that?
What we're doing right now is we're still investigating, open investigation. We can't talk about too much, but if things lead to the direction that she needs to be arrested, she'll be arrested. If things don't add up to the fact that this wasn't on purpose, it was an accident, other chain of command should go through. We'll put our case file together go to the prosecuting attorney's office and let them make that decision. And gather all the evidence and all the interviews and type them up and just follow where the evidence goes for us as far as our area is concerned.
Okay.
And we'll hand it over to the prosecutor and he'll make that determination.
Okay, so can you share with me at what point when a driver leaves a crime scene and returns to that crime scene 2 hours later, is that not grounds for an arrest? Because it was a crime scene, she did leave the crime scene, and she did return back to the crime scene later, whether it was that she was, too shaken up or too scared to go approach, the body herself to see if he was okay, because he could have still very well been alive. But she did leave the crime scene. She could have remained in her car and called for help.
What I can say, without saying hold up, is we have to determine the culpability of what she believed happened. Obviously, if she knew that he was a human being, then things would be a lot different. But of course, right now we have to go by her statement that she thought she struck abuse. So she know what she struck. Okay, so Officer Sanders. Yes, ma'am. This young lady shared that she believed that she struck a deer, but she went back 2 hours later to check on the deer. No, ma'am. She went back to out of the vehicle.
So she left her vehicle there. And so when she got out of her vehicle, she made no effort to go and look and see what had happened or what she had actually hit before she left the scene.
Where the vehicle came to rest was quite a bit of a distance from where the actual incident happened.
But she still wasn't crossed enough or concerned enough to know, man, what did I actually hit? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I can't testify to what her feelings or what her actions would have done at that moment. I don't know.
Okay. So I hope you guys were able to hear it for yourself. She actually went back to get things out of the car. She did not go back and wave her hand and say that, are you guys looking for me? It was me. I'm here. That's not what she did. She did not go and turn herself in. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys are even aware, she didn't even make a phone call, not one phone call to the police department. Not one. To this day, not one. Now, this is what we're going to go back over culpability. Culpability, responsibility for a fault or wrong blame. And they said they were looking for her culpability, looking for the intent, the criminal intent on her behalf. Okay? Culpable is a term in criminal law that refers to blameworthiness of the accused. Accused is culpable when she or he is sufficiently responsible for criminal acts or negligence to be at fault and liable for the conduct. And this is just how I personally feel. Ashley Woosley Winans voluntarily did drugs for recreational purposes. Did she not? That's just a question. Ashley Woosley Winans then acted out of criminal intent, knowing operating a vehicle while intoxicated is a violation of the Arkansas law. Ashley Woosley Winans did so willingly, killing Donald Manning Jr. in her negligence and further behaving as a gross and malicious murderer by leaving Donald Manning Jr. face down on the cold ground, fighting for his life while suffering till his last breath. Morally, legally, and criminally wrong. Morally, Exodus 20:13, thou shalt not kill. Legally wrong, any damage resulting from a violation of a legal right. Donald Manning had every right as a pedestrian to be out there walking the streets of El Dorado, Arkansas, or Smackover, if you will. Criminally, Arkansas Code 5-4-401A 527-53-101. A driver who leaves the scene of an accident has committed a Class D felony, punishable by up to 6 years in prison. I didn't make that law. Question: who is more refusing to acknowledge Ashley Woosley Wanning's culpability here? Ashley Woosley Wanning's for not admitting to hitting and killing Donald Manning Jr., or law enforcement and the prosecuting attorney's team for not holding her accountable and actually aiding in her getting away with it? All actions by all parties are morally, legally, and criminally wrong. Impairment from immature drug use is not an excuse for breaking the law. So whether she thought she hit a deer, whether she thought she hit a rabbit, depending on how much drug she had in her system, could have impaired her to, she could have been running from a ghost. I mean, I don't know. I've never, ever had an encounter with drugs, but I do know that through people sharing with me experiences and things, people hallucinate. And so are you going to share with me that hallucination now is an excuse? Well, her getting behind the wheel of the car, how do you justify that? Didn't she do that in intent? Didn't she take the drugs with intent? And she did that from a sober or a clear conscience or a clear decision. So, I don't know. That's all I have for you guys today. Be blessed.